Hi, so today I want to talk about sexuality, gender, and also what the Bible has to say, and also a bit from my own coaching where I differentiate people into different categories. For example, you're the expressive. I call that the hare, not this hare, but the animal that runs really fast. And sometimes you can call that feminine, sometimes you can call it masculine, like the woman likes to talk, the man likes to be silent, but there are more angles to this. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm also going to share some of my findings in the Bible that comprises of love and poetry, and then the law on the other side, which I find very, very interesting. So this will be a bit of both Bible studies and my coaching and helping women how to stop fighting with their husband and understanding the different sides in ourselves, the feminine and the masculine, and how they can work together and how they can be fruitful. So, in regards to the Bible and Genesis and everything we find there, so you might have studied the Bible, you might have not studied the Bible, you might think that the Bible is really harsh and God sounds like an egomaniac or a psychopath or really vengeful if you've read the Old Testament, but there is some profound wisdom in there. So just to stay in the biblical terms in terms of gender. So I think most people agree that the soul has no gender. And I heard a priest talk about this yesterday. So in regards to our gender and how that's tied to our sexuality and our biology and the way we express ourselves through being a woman or a man. So the soul has no gender. And then the soul chooses a body. So when the soul chooses to become a male body, it already this chooses another part. So you're already making compromises. You're already removing something from yourself, from your wholeness. So that's an interesting part, I thought, that we always make compromises. So sometimes when we think we're in love, it's because we've given away 50% of our humanity by just coming into to this body and having this experience here on earth. So we already gave up 50% of all that is in us in order to just come down here and be something, right? So when we think we're in love, this preacher yesterday said, when you think you're in love, think to yourself, what have you lost, given away, or what has been taken away in your life? So when we find a person and we have that certain attraction feeling and the drugs come into our system, it is because that person represents something we either lost, we gave away, like we gave away just coming in here. So most people in statistically are attracted to the opposite sex because they gave away that part of themselves, right? Something can also have been taken away from you and something that you've lost. So I might feel that I need a sense of caring and nurturing and being a more loving person. So I'll naturally be drawn to and attracted to people who have this quality that I somehow have lost. And that's why we're attracted. So we're attracted to our opposite. And to me, in my view, we have a male and female side inside of us. And I think we all agree on that. And then we have the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. And I call, and other people call the left side the masculine, the linear, and the logical, scientifical, mathematical, keeping things in boxes. And then there's the right side that has to do with being connected, others. You don't think about yourself. There's no ego on the right side. There is no conscious awareness of a self. There is others. At the same time, we have the female qualities that are taking care of, nurturing, keeping something inside and protecting it so it can grow up slowly. And then we have the masculine energy inside of us. So I really like diving into the Bible to figuring out all this stuff, also to get to know what it's all about. So in the Bible or in Judaism, there's something called, I don't know how to pronounce it, halakha, and it deals with the law. And then there's akada, with the meaning of the law. So halakha deals with the subjects that can be expressed literally. So the masculine to me is the literal. It's taking things literal, like Jesus walked literally on water if you're in the New Testament, or literally this happened. And Agada introduces to us a realm that lies beyond the range of expression. That's how it's said here, but perhaps it's beyond the range of literal expression. So the Hebrew scriptures and the New Covenant scriptures comprises the master story of the universe, by which all other smaller stories are given their meaning. And the Hebrew language, it's new to me, so I'm by no means an expert, but it goes in circles, which is actually a feminine quality, because, and I've written about this in my book before I dove into the Bible, you have something in statistics called discrete data that ends, and that's the masculine, the linear. Oh, for some reason, my camera just went off. That's interesting. Darkness. What's happening to the electricity? This is so weird. And then you have continuous data, which is the feminine that continues. And the feminine is also called circular compared to linear. Let's see if we can get this camera working. So odd. It's never happened before. See if we can put it on. For some reason, my camera went dead on me, or no lights. So the Hebrew language is built in different circles, describing things 3 times. So there are 3 layers to it. And also in my Bible app, it describes how it is circular and it goes into different chapters. So it doesn't just go from chapter to chapter. There's a circle and a circle. It doesn't follow the chapters. This is well known or agreed upon. And then there's the 3 layers of the Hebrew language that I've come to know as being, first of all, the literal. So that's the masculine. Then there's a second level to the expression in the language, or a way to understand what is being described, which is called the relational towards others. And then there's the third, which is the experimental. And that really resonated with me. And also, the Hebrew language in itself, it starts in the east, where the sun goes up. So when we write, it's from the left to the right. And this is from the Hebrew language, is from the right to the left. So it follows the sun, and it starts in the east. And east to me represents the female wisdom, the mystical, and the west, the Western mentality, the capitalism, and the masculinity. So the Hebrew language in itself is feminine and is in different dimensions and levels, the 3 levels in itself. So here it says, and I'm just reading out, that the Hebrew scripture and the New Covenant scriptures comprises the master story of the universe, which all of the smaller stories are given their meaning. That's why things are described 3 times. You have 3 stories of how Mary Magdalene came to the tomb. And first the stone was rolled away, and then something else is described, and there's something third. And the third thing that's described is that Mary Magdalene meets Jesus. And that's in the experimental level. I believe she met him in her meditation, in her deeper consciousness, like in a dream where you're connecting with higher intelligence and God, right? So the master story, when we talk about these circles, provides the necessary interpretive keys for the other genre of scriptures by invoking the question. And I'm just reading out loud here. This is not my knowledge, it's something I've found. How does this passage or story follow the thread of God's master story? So the Hebraic roots of storytelling predate the written Torah by many centuries. The archetypal stories of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and Noah and the great flood of the Tower of Babel, the stories of the families of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, were transmitted orally over generations by good storytellers, by the fire, right? Before they were written down. As the literature of Israel and Judaism developed, 2 broad genres of writing emerged. That's called the halakha and the Haggadah. And I found a really beautiful poem about this, which to me, on one side is the law, and then there's the poetry and the love. And that's what the Bible is. It's both, right? And some will read the Bible as a law. Some will read the Bible as a literal, do this, if you do that. Some will read it in love and poetry and philosophy. So you have that balance of the masculine and the feminine, where one side is concrete and boxes and logical, and the other side is that's not black and white over on the feminine side. So you have these sides to it. And then you have the fact that over 1/3 of the Bible is poetry, and poetry uses less words to express more. And poetry, and very much so in the Bible, has mathematical codes inside of it. So it's something we figure out. So a lot of the knowledge in the Bible is something that we figure out that's behind the actual literal words. It's all riddles. It's even riddles, and it's written in circles also when it's the New Testament, even though it's Greek or Aramaic, it's still in circles. And Jesus talks in parables, right? He doesn't say anything that doesn't make us think. So he asks a question to us, so we can think instead of just being a law. He makes us think about things. So there's philosophy, logics, law, and prose, this lovely poetry. So here it says halakha, which now is the opposite of of Haggadah. But halakha and Haggadah on one side is still the male, and Akada, the female, or just the other side, the opposite. So here it says, halakha is the crystallization, the ultimate and inevitable quintessence of Agada. Agada is the content of halakha. So Agada is the plaintive voice of the heart's yearning as it wings its way to its heaven. And halakha is the resting place where for a moment the yearning is satisfied and still, as a dream seeks its fulfillment in interpretation, as will in action, as though in speech, as flower and fruit. So akada in halakha. So this is just a little quote from from a poem. So I also heard Gary speak about what happens inside males and females' bodies, and I thought an interesting part was that the male interacts with light activations. According to him, it really made sense. Called through, so the electricity in the male body discharges. The electricity flows and it dissipates like it does out of the wire. That's why it's coated with plastic to keep it inside. And the female neurons interact completely different, but he will tell you more about that. So female, just my notes from it, is magnetism, and it doesn't dissipate. Just so the male body is what we can see, is how we can understand the masculine energy. So in the male body, you have a seed that you give away, you express something, you send something out, right? And in the female body, we contain something, we get something inside of us that we keep and we nurture for a long time. And according to him, we have magnetism and we don't dissipate stuff. We maintain the field. And then I wrote multi-orgasm and magnet. So male electricity and female is magnetism. Okay, I have to look at my notes, but just in my own wisdom of this male and female energies and gender and sexuality. So we come in as a soul, we choose male or female, and we give away 50% of our human capacity. And then we have these drivers inside of us that are both male and female. energies, or the feminine and the masculine. And those drivers can work together, and the driver in itself. So my female energy, my female qualities can be fruitful or non-fruitful. And then my masculine energies can be fruitful and unfruitful, or more developed, right? So the masculine energy is me wanting to achieve something, brag, boast about something. It's like, see me, give me attention. Here I am. And this I want to accomplish, this I want to do, these results, I want to be recognized for my results. So some people have this quality of being egotistic, which is both good and bad. It's not, it's just it's the ego, being aware, and not egotistic, but being aware of your ego, and promoting yourself and measuring yourself, but on the masculine values of results and materials, things that you can touch and feel with your senses. The female side has intuition, something you can't see and touch, and deeper, higher wisdom, right? And you just don't boast about that in the same way. It doesn't make the same. It's easier to grasp the masculine. So I have that. I'm an ego slash narcissist, and I'm attracted. My ex-husband was a turtle wisdom, which is actually the feminine energy, the mystical, something that you keep inside, that comes from inside. So I think the males statistically maybe go inside their shell when they meet the woman. So sometimes the male, in order to be fruitful, he acts as the female, biology. So in my experience, in my statistics that I've written, and in my book, it's the female that talks a lot. So that's expression. That's biologically the male way of acting, is to express and get something out. But for me to find and get my power, or females act in a masculine way, and so there's a difference between how we act and what's masculine and what's feminine. So it doesn't really have to do with the gender itself. So turtle wisdom is this wisdom of going inside and thinking and not having a need to be connected with other people. That's how I differentiate it. It's where you think. It's like Jesus went inside himself and he meditated and he met God. So I think all wisdom comes from that. So if we only have the other energy and we only talk and we only express, we don't get that inner wisdom and inner peace. So what is this thing about gender and sexuality? In practice, I talked to my cousin about this. She was starting, or my cousin's wife, actually. And we discussed it, and we all have this different conception. So gender means something different today, and it's something that you can study. And what is sexuality? And so to understand this new dimension that we have, for me, it was easy to figure it out by thinking to myself to differentiate this way. So there's who I am. I'm a woman. That's my gender. That's it's just my body, it's not my soul, it's not my essence. It's just this physical thing that I'm in. And so sexuality or sexual orientation is something different. That has nothing to do with my gender. If I'm attracted to women or to breasts or to those features, that's what I'm attracted to. It had nothing to do with how I perceive my own body and who I am. So gender identification or gender transformation is who you are, who you perceive yourself as. And then who you're attracted to is something completely different, right? But still, your sexuality is my expression of my gender, to me at least. Sexuality can also be how we have sex. And sexual drive is also just the reproduction and creation of the world, of everything, and creation of our art and our expression of ourselves, which has nothing to do with gender. So sex drives, as also mentioned in Think and Grow Rich, the transmutation of sex energy. I divide that up to two things, actually. So there's a sex drive, it's our male driver, and then there's the love drive, which is the container and the feminine who wants to protect and keep the house, the inside, the family. And then there's the sex drive that wants to go out into the world, spread the seeds, make an impression, conquer things, right? And everything we do in this world, everything is created from these drivers, the sex drive and the love drive, and just the energetic force of expansion. And then there's the go within. So this was just a little bit of me talking about gender and sexuality and expressions of ourselves through our creations and through also through our bodies, expressing who we are into this world where the literal, the masculine and the concrete is I'm a woman, I have breasts, I'm a man, I have muscles. But then there's so many other layers. So when you transmute the sex energy, it can be physical. You can have sex. You can say, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I have muscles, I'm a woman, I have breasts, and I'm sexy. But there's so many more layers, just like in the Bible and the Hebrew language. There's the relational and experimental. There's the higher consciousness that Mary Magdalene was in when she met Jesus. The reason she was with Jesus more than the men is because she was at that higher level, the Passover of the ego, right? So sex transmutation, if it's only done in the physical, it's not done in your art, it's not done in creation of things and your imprint on the world. So there's so much more to do, we can do with this energy of our male and females. And they can really be constructive and productive, and they can be really destructive. So if my female is not controlled by my male, my female will have a pity party. The woman in me will just cry and feel sorry for herself. And that's the destructive part. And the destructive male in me, if he's not controlled by or harmonized by my female, my male side will just be results over relationship. I'll completely forget about love in my coaching. I'll make people feel wrong because I keep telling them what to do better without the love. So if I don't have my woman with me, my man will push away everything that I want because I don't have the love and connection. So my man will think more about results, and my woman about the relationship instead of the results. And we need both. And I think the woman and the love is the most important. That's also Jesus's authority is love. Whoever Jesus was, Yeshua, that the Christians chose to call Jesus, which is a Greek word, 888 for some reason. So the love, the female powers, is if we don't start there, I don't think the man can make as many results. The man inside of us will be pushy, controlling, dominant, and that can only go so far. So if you just have the sex drive and you want to have sex, but you don't go to the higher levels of how you can transmute that energy, the life force behind everything, we don't get to higher intelligence. So to me, feminine is higher intelligence. But the feminine alone, if you just look at the right side of the brain, we wouldn't be able to speak, right? So if there were no men in the world, to me, at least our cars would be standing with the hood up and not being able to drive it. It would be dark. There would be no electricity. So we do need men by all means. And men are wonderful and have wonderful qualities. But the masculine energy inside either one of us alone will not attract as magnetically. It will dissipate like the electricity, right? And it'll be hard, not easy and fun and playful. And like if you're in your female powers, you will attract things, be magnetic, right? It's much easier, but we also need the structure and the boundaries that the male side can give us and the masculine energy can give us to control the waves of the woman and the emotions, right? We need that structure around it so we don't completely disappear in our emotions. That's it for me today. That's just what I want to talk about. Bible studies, make love, not war, lead with love, sex, gender, and the power of creation.